Hundreds rallied in Aden on Saturday rejecting what they called a foreign guardianship and demanding the restoration of a southern state. Crowds filled Al Arud Square, waving flags of the former People's Democratic Republic of Yemen and portraits of Southern Transitional Council STC leader Idris Al-Zubaydi. Protesters declared they would not submit to outside rule, calling for liberation and self-determination. The STC organized the demonstration under the slogan "Rejecting Guardianship and Opposing Occupation," urging supporters to join what it described as a million-man march. The Aden rally follows similar protests across southern provinces in recent weeks as STC supporters push for southern self-rule and reject foreign interference. Hundreds of protesters rallied at Tel Aviv's Habima Square Saturday night, demanding early elections and accountability from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Demonstrators waved Israeli flags and held signs critical of Netanyahu, while speakers accused him of leading Israel through 1,000 days of fighting with no success. Former Air Force pilot and entrepreneur Jacob Kobi Richter charged the Prime Minister with abandoning hostages, neglecting Arab society, and demanding Israel's global standing. Similar anti-government protests were reported in Jerusalem and other cities. The rally comes as Israel heads toward a national vote later this year, with the 26th Knesset election required by October 27. Foreign ministers from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan met in Cairo Sunday to discuss the recent US-Iran agreement signed under the Islamabad Memorandum. Footage showed Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelatif welcoming his counterpart Faisal bin Farhan of Saudi Arabia, Hakan Fidan of Turkey, and Mohammed Ishaq Dar of Pakistan before talks began. In a joint statement, the ministers called the memorandum a constructive and important development and urged swift progress in the next phase of negotiations. They stressed that regional security, particularly in the Arab Gulf, must be central to the process. The first round of US-Iran talks is now underway at Switzerland's Bundestag resort, with Pakistan and Qatar mediating. Technical negotiations will focus on implementing the memorandum and launching a 60-day negotiating period extendable by mutual agreement. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has reaffirmed Tehran will not give up uranium enrichment, warning the United States and Israel that surrendering nuclear rights goes against national interests. Speaking in Tehran, Pezeshkian urged negotiators to continue talks with strength and resolve, insisting Iran would not bow to pressure or humiliation. He noted that US President Donald Trump had shifted his stance, moving from demands of unconditional surrender to acknowledging Iran's nuclear rights. Meanwhile, Qatar announced the start of the Lake Lucerne summit, with US and Iranian delegations meeting alongside mediators from Pakistan and Qatar. Talks will address regional ceasefire efforts, navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran's nuclear program under the 14-point memorandum, which opens a 60-day window for broader negotiations. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Army Chief Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir met Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi Sunday at Switzerland's Bundestag resort ahead of US-Iran technical talks. Footage showed warm embraces as delegations gathered before the four-way discussions involving Iran, the United States, Pakistan and Qatar. The talks will focus on implementing the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding signed after days of mediation. The US delegation is led by Vice President J.D. Vance, joined by Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Negotiations are expected to tackle unresolved issues, including a regional ceasefire, navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran's nuclear program. The 14-clause memorandum, signed by Presidents Donald Trump and Masoud Pezeshkian, opens a 60-day window for further talks, with reciprocal measures such as reopening the Strait of Hormuz and easing restrictions on Iranian ports. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance says Washington is committed to securing a full regional ceasefire in the Middle East as officials met Iran at Switzerland's Birkenstock resort on Sunday. Vance told reporters peace requires give and take, adding that the U.S. has done more to stop the conflict in Lebanon than any other government in recent months. He is leading the American delegation, joined by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and entrepreneur Jared Kushner. The talks mark the start of a technical negotiation process aimed at resolving disputes and building support for future agreements. Pakistan and Qatar are acting as mediators. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani says the US-Iran mediation process is only beginning, pledging Doha support until the end. Speaking at Switzerland's Birkenstock resort Sunday, Al Thani praised the effort to bring the sides together, calling the talks historic and significant for both regional security and the global economy. He credited US Vice President J.D. Vance, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Field Marshal Syed Assimi Munir, and Iranian officials Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and Abbas Araghchi for their roles in launching the process. Four-way talks involving Iran, the United States, Pakistan, and Qatar are now focused on implementing the Islamabad Memorandum signed after days of mediation. Colombians living in London cast their ballots Sunday at St. Paul's Church, joining the presidential runoff back home. Footage showed voters queuing through the church hall as election staff checked registrations. Many voiced support for Abelardo de la Espriella, the Trump-backed conservative, promising a sharp break from outgoing President Gustavo Petro's policies. Others favored left-wing Senator Ivan Cepeda, warning de la Espriella's dual nationality could complicate foreign policy. Some voters stressed the need for continued U.S. support against guerrillas and drug cartels, while others argued Cepeda's legislative experience made him better suited to head. De la Espriella led the first round with 43.7%, Cepeda close behind at 40.9%, setting up a stark choice on Colombia's economy, security, and peace talks. Foreign ministers from the Confederation of Sahel States AES, comprising of Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, met in Bamako on Saturday, condemning what they called foreign-backed destabilization attempt. Mali's Abdoulaye Diop said recent attacks were aimed at derailing the bloc's drive for sovereignty and shared development. Niger's Bakary Yao Sangare insisted Thursday's assault on Niamey's airport only strengthened their determination, while Burkina Faso's Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré highlighted progress on diplomatic coordination and institution building. The ministers reviewed work under the diplomacy pillar of the AES Year 2 roadmap following earlier senior officials' talks. They approved further steps to strengthen coordination with ECOWAS and other African institutions. Formed in 2023 as a defense pact, the AES became a formal confederation in 2024, uniting the three military-led governments in pursuit of political, economic, and military sovereignty. Argentine artist Petty Lopez is turning one street football balls into striking works of art through his series World Glories. Footage from his workshop in Buenos Aires on Sunday showed Lopez painting balls inspired by iconic World Cup moments and legendary players. Since 2013, he has created 22 pieces, one for each tournament from 1930 to 2022, with every ball covered in images symbolizing its era and topped with the crest of the winning federation. Lopez says using one Potrero balls connects the art to Argentina's grassroots football culture, the seedbed of stars like Maradona and Messi. His collection has been exhibited in major cultural spaces, including the National Congress and the Evita Museum. Armenia's former defense minister Ashak Karapetyan has dismissed the ongoing Eagle Partner joint exercises with NATO member states as politically motivated rather than militarily significant. The drills, which began last week and run through Thursday, involved 250 Armenian peacekeepers and 93 foreign troops from the US, France, and Greece. Karapetyan told RT in an interview that the small scale shows Armenia gains little militarily, while politically it risks damaging ties with Russia. Moscow echoed that view, with Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova warning the exercises are part of Western efforts to pull Armenia away from its traditional ally. Armenia froze its participation in the Moscow-led CSTO in 2024 and has since sought closer ties with NATO and the EU, deepening tensions with Russia.